Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at gcnlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Everyone all set, cocked, locked, blissed? Dr. Shealy, are you blissed?
Yes.
I'm so glad. Alex is engineering the broadcast in Minnesota with us today. And class, if you'd like to call Dr. Shealy, here's the number. We'll pay for the call, 866-582-9933, 866-582-9933. Telephone listen line, 605-477-3249. It's up 24/7. Dr. Shealy, is there anything that you would like to bring up in the beginning of this broadcast?
Nope. Anything's open.
Okay. All right. So, well, let me start this discussion by saying that when I was teaching back in the 1990s, I was teaching computer science, and this actually relates to your alma mater, and it relates to our current level of thinking, which I think is kind of twisted, but here it is. So back in the 1990s, I had my students sign a contract with me stating things that they would certainly do in order for them to be in my class. So I would teach them. In return, they would have to do certain things. And one of the things that I required in writing was that they would behave both inside class and outside of class in the proper manner at all times. 100% of the time, they would have to behave properly. Now, the reason for that is we were selling and manufacturing a product, and I wanted to make sure that none of my students would end up in the newspaper, for graffiti, spray painting somebody's car, with a can of spray paint, or spray painting a wall, or vandalism, or mischief in any way, shape, or form. So they agreed to do that. Now, in contrast, and the idea was I didn't want one of my students to make the newspaper, for doing some kind of mischief, and then have that taint the entire class. Okay. In a similar but not exact line of thinking, there's a Duke University professor, your old alma mater, right? Duke University.
You bet.
Yes? Okay. So assistant professor Dr. Megan Neely stepped down as the director of graduate studies at Duke University on Saturday. And why? Because she recommended to her Chinese-speaking students that they avoid speaking Chinese when at the university and off the university. She said that, I know that it was really hard. What you guys did was, really, really difficult. Come to the United States and learn to speak English, and and go to your classes in English-speaking classes. It's very difficult. And she was praising them, but she said, please don't speak Chinese, outside of the classroom, because it can be a negative when it comes to internship opportunities. Now, I totally, absolutely agree with her, because,
of course, she's right.
If I were at a restaurant, absolutely. If I were at a restaurant and it was a Mexican restaurant, and the waitress came over and asked me, for what I'd prefer to eat, and then she yelled back to the kitchen in Spanish, that would bother me, because it's offensive. It's not polite. And in that same line of thinking, there's a rule we have at our house, and that is no whispering. No whispering in our house to anyone at any time. Because it's not polite, right?
Hey, It is.
So,
we're talking about that whole business of political correctness again. The bullshit of political correctness. And go ahead with the story. I presume she stepped down because she was forced to.
Absolutely. She was forced out of her position as assistant professor of graduate studies on Saturday at Duke University because she says, now she wrote this down, and I absolutely support her. I'm going to try to give her a call. In fact, if she's still taking calls, I'm sure the media is beating the tar out of her. But because she emailed that she encouraged, and here's the quote, I encourage you to commit to using English 100% of the time when you are in hock, which I guess is some kind of a H-O-C-K, capital H-O-C-K, not in debt, but it must be one, maybe it's a lounge or something at the university, or other professional setting, she wrote. And she was concerned about this. And I think she wanted to find out who these students were so she could counsel them as to why it's important to speak English in an English-speaking country. So you don't appear to be, talking about people, so you would appear to be, polite. So you're right. It's more attack on political, make people do things that make no sense at all. But I put in writing, Dr. Shealy, that my students absolutely would behave properly in and out of class, or I would remove them from my classroom. But here, the person doing the right thing,
in today's world, you would be censored or kicked out. Right. So you agree with her, I guess, in based on what I've said. I agree
Is that
with
right?
her.
Because I certainly do.
And I disagree with Duke, forcing her out.
Okay.
However, that's not the first time I've disagreed with Duke.
So if Duke University contacts you and says, Dr. Norman Shealy, I see you're quite successful. I have one of their students call you up begging for money. I see you're quite successful, and would you like to send some of that success our way? Will this impact you?
Well, since it's not in the medical school, it probably wouldn't because I only donate to the medical school. But yes, it would impact me if it happened in the medical school.
Okay. All right. Very good. Well, that was one of the things I wanted to mention to you, kind of a light topic. On a more serious note, there's a survey, according to StudyFinds, StudyFinds.org, that half of doctors that were surveyed are considering leaving medicine because of health insurance headaches, meaning the red tape that insurance companies are creating, causing barriers between the doctors and their patients, have caused doctors to say, I'm considering leaving medicine because of something that is not even related to medicine itself. It's related to money, insurance companies. Have you heard doctors complain about this, Dr. Shealy? What are your thoughts?
I dropped out in 1997 because of that. And I will never go back.
All right, so let me see if I understand. So my understanding is that the insurance companies have caused enough problems for you to drop out of accepting insurance payments from insurance companies for their insured because of their red tape.
Ago. It was that bad 22 years ago.
And you wrote a book about this.
Oh, yeah. Third-party rape.
Third-party rape. Can you tell us a little bit about your book, Third-Party Rape? Who's involved and what does that mean?
Well, actually, it began in 1963, 2 years before Medicare came in. I wrote a letter to President Johnson, and I said, you will bankrupt the country because the government's never been able to do anything that's fiscally responsible. About 10 days later, I got a call from the chief of surgery. Norm, what the hell did you write to President Johnson? I've been on the phone all day with the FBI. They want me to fire you. So they spent a week, the FBI spent a week trying to get me fired from West Reserve Medical School because I complained that the government was going to bankrupt us. Now, in 1965, when Medicare came in, medical expenses were 4 to 4.5% of gross national product. By 1970, within 5 years, medical expenses had already climbed to 12%. And, of course, today they're 12%. And all of this is because of actually originally government supporting the nonsense of the insurance mafia. So the third party is not just the insurance company, it's the government, the insurance mafia, and the legal system all supporting nonsense.
Very interesting. What was your reaction to the demand that you be fired? What was your reaction?
I told him he can fire me, but I will not apologize. And he did not. It took him a week, but he did not fire me.
Dr. Shealy, you know, I have kind of a grin on my face as I listen to you say that, because when I worked for one of the banks, they sent 11 people from corporate headquarters. The cost of an airfare was $358, $358 back then. They sent 11 people from corporate headquarters to demand that my boss fire me because I would not follow orders. And the orders were I would be forced to use products manufactured by IBM or branded International Business Machines for the projects that I was working on. You know, Vinny's straying away. He's picking his own products. You know, what happens if Vinny gets run over by a car? Who's going to support these things, these weird brands that Vinny buys in the name of saving money? And, you know, who cares if it's 1/10 the cost for the stuff that Vinny buys and it works? Who cares about that? What's important is what happens if something happens to Vinny and we can't call an IBM to support the things that he's building. So that's what happened to me. And, after the meeting was over, I didn't even know about it. My boss told me. And I thought that was a badge of honor, Dr. Shealy, when people demand that you be fired, for doing the right thing.
Well, of course. And, I would agree with you, of course.
And so here's a question for the instructors to think about. How many of you who are instructors have had something similar happen to you when you were, working as an employee for whatever you did? Have you ever been under the threat of being fired for not doing something that other people want you to do, but you were doing the right thing? So if that happened to you, give us a call. It doesn't have to be today. It can be any day. We'll be right back. Dr. Norman Shealy's with us. NormShealy.com. NormShealy.com. Mark in Illinois, welcome. You're on with Dr. Norman Shealy.
Hi, good morning. Dr. Shealy, I was wanting to ask you, have you dealt with children that have had severe trauma in their life?
Oh, yes, of course.
Okay.
Many, a majority of my patients have had severe trauma at some point. I guess the most common thing we see is part of what's now called post-traumatic stress syndrome.
Yeah. Well, can I tell you a testimony about my life?
Of course.
I could just I'm just going to summarize it and sum it up. I know normally I wouldn't do this, but I think it's something that I have to say. When I was a child, I found out when I woke up, I became a Christian in 1978, and I didn't do that because anybody led me. I just knew I had to do something because of everything that was going on in my life. And I went to a pastor and I asked him, who God is and all that sort of stuff. And as I sat there for 2 hours, I prayed and I found the Lord at that. And what happened in my life later on when I was in business, I started in business in my early 20s, and according to the world, I was successful because I was making somewhere between $8,000 and $10,000 a month, and this was back in the 1990s, early 90s. And so, anyway, but I always had stuff that I thought were dreams. I just thought they were dreams, but I realized that they were memories because I started to wake up again in 2005 when I had to walk away from my businesses. I had to walk away from my land. I had all kinds of pressure on me. People were trying to destroy me. It went on for 10 years, and I did sell my house, but I walked away from everything. I lost everything. But it woke me up. And I realized that the things that I had been dealing with in my mind were a reality. They weren't just dreams. They were memories. And so I knew I had to go to Palestine in 2007. I realized I needed to go there, but I knew that my life would be in extreme danger. And everything that I knew before I even went there really panned out. And I knew that my mother and my father were murdered. I knew my whole family had been murdered. And I knew that I was kidnapped as a child. And after that, I was kidnapped, I was tortured as a child. I had all kinds of, I was raped too. You mentioned rape this morning. I had all kinds of evil things that were done to me. And I think all of it was to, so that I would never find my identity, that I would never find myself. And the Lord started to bring back, to show me my identity. And then, along with identity comes responsibility, and along with responsibility comes a destiny. And so then I began to put all these things, together, not in my own, it was definitely supernatural. And I began to realize that everything that was being done to me was to destroy me as a person, not only mentally, but physically, spiritually, mentally, and physically. And in 1978, when I did become a believer, I had to learn how to walk again. I had to learn how to keep my balance. I had to learn how to get a fork to my mouth without shaking. I had to learn how to do everything all over again that people take for granted. And I really, and I didn't even think about, I was in Air Force ROTC in high school, but I thought about going in the Air Force.
Mark, we're going into a break, and if you want to continue when we come back and ask a question.
I want to talk about it.
Yeah, let's talk more about it. Mark in Illinois is with us. Dr. Norman Shealy's with us, normshealy.com. This is USA Prepares. We'll be right back. Dr. Norman Shealy is with us. Mark in Illinois is with us. Mark's giving us a brief history of what his life was like earlier. Mark, please continue.
Well, let me ask you two questions, Mark, that I need to be sure about. At what age were your parents murdered, and what age were you when your parents were murdered?
Well, I found out later when I went to Palestine because I knew that there was something that was waiting for me, which was paperwork. There was something that was hidden, and I don't know how to explain it, but I had to be there. I had to go there to retrieve it, and I was the only one that could. But I believe it happened. I was born in 1959, December 1st, 1959, and I believe it happened in 1960, about 61. And
so you were barely a toddler.
Yeah, barely a toddler. And I don't think people. I don't know if it's really possible to remember stuff, but at that age. But I think the thing is that the DNA of my parents is it's imprinted in our genetics and in our mind. Of course.
Well, the evidence is overwhelming that major trauma of any kind before the age of 7 changes the child for the rest of its life. And so,
Shealy, what's this stuff about right brain, left brain? Why would they try to split a child's brain? Why would they try? What would be the purpose of rape and torture and medication and all that? I think I know the answer, but
there's no purpose. It's only evil. Let's face it. It is deranged, crazy, insane behavior to torture or anyone, of course, but certainly not a child. And it does. I mean, it's amazing that you recover from that. Most people have severe lifelong depression, anxiety, et cetera, when they've been damaged early in childhood.
Well, it is. It's so many miracles. I don't, I'm not a drug user. I thank God because of the stuff they did to me with medication, at such a young age to destroy me. I don't have any habits with smoking or with alcohol. I've been spared from many of those things. And
now, were you adopted or were you raised in an orphanage?
No, I was placed with parents, and the whole, people that I thought were my parents, even my name, everything in my life was a lie. Everything. And I just met people along the way in my life where, they were angry because, they found out about lies and I would just laugh and I would, and they would say, "Why are you laughing?" And I'm saying, if you only knew half of what I knew.
Now, were your adoptive or pseudo parents kind to you?
No, they were the ones who tortured me. They put me.
Oh my God! You were placed with the evil empire, so to speak.
Yeah, my dad would get a call. I call him my dad and my mom, but my dad would get a call there would be a man who would call from Washington, D.C., and I would pick up the phone, and it was just, never thought about it until later on in life, but I was the one that would pick up the phone, and I would talk with this man, and this man would talk with me from Washington, D.C., and he'd always say, "Is your dad there?" But my dad would never be there when he called. I would wind up talking with him.
Wow. Now, when did you escape from those parents?
Well, I actually, the very important thing is that, one thing that really holds people down is that they're not able to forgive, and they're not able to deal with the bitterness and the anger and the rage and the violence. All of these, you deal with every emotion to the human psyche that you can imagine. And so I dealt with all of those emotions, but I forgave them. I questioned them. I went to counseling. I got professional counseling. I had a friend that was a professional counselor. She's passed away now, but she had a master's and she had a master's, and she had a bachelor's and a master's from Governor State University in South Suburb of Chicago. And so she helped me. She helped me a lot to get through a lot of the stuff that I went through. And then I sought out another professional counseling with a guy that had a PhD in Christian counseling. That's pretty unusual, but he did. And up in the northwest suburbs of Chicago, and I did that for a while. So I have talked with people, and I've been able to deal with the rage and the anger, the fear. The big thing is fear when you're a child, because fear is the one thing that cripples you.
Of course. I believe that all chronic emotional illness is the result of fear.
I believe it is. It all goes back to fear, doesn't it?
Oh, yes. And fear leads to anxiety, depression, guilt, and anger. All of those. But you're very fortunate to have had that good a counselor.
Yeah, I have. I've been very blessed in so many things. But, I've tried to go get jobs. It's just really, I say strange, but I know it's not strange. But I've tried to go get a job at just a basic job, make a minimum wage. And I get all these encounters with law enforcement people all the time, trying to destroy me, I was working at a Casey's in a little town here in Illinois, and I caught the police in my car. And I said, "What are you doing in my car? This was just last year." I said, "You don't have a warrant to be in my car." And I caught him and where I was working. So I was, they backed out, they backed off. We didn't have cameras outside, so I couldn't, prove it. Like some of the Casey stores do have cameras outside, but this was just a little one in a little town. And so anyway, I went inside and I just knew that I had to leave because I knew that they were trying to plant something in my car. And I just had to walk away from a job. And I've had this happen to me. Dr. Shealy, many times, where they tried to bring me down. I had a woman bear false witness against me just last year. Got me thrown in jail, got me fingerprinted. And she bore false witness. All kinds of stuff before a judge, before the state police, before the police here in the town that I live in, everything. And to my landlord, got me kicked out of my apartment, got an order of restraint against me. I went to court. I was blessed. This is another miracle. I got a lawyer. I went to a lawyer and he said, "I need a $2,000 retainer fee." I said, "I don't have that. I'm sorry." So I'm wasting your time, and I started walking for the door. He gets a phone call, and all of a sudden his mind just changes after he got this phone call. And he turns around to me and he goes, "Come back here." He goes, "I'm going to take your case. It's going to be pro bono." Stuff like that. And,
well, you are indeed blessed to have survived as well as you have. I would like to send you an MP3 to help you further develop your ability to detach from all this horrible stuff. Send me an email, norm@normshealy.com, and I'll send you my favorite, what I call detachment exercise.
Okay, I'll do that. I have to say this: when I went to Palestine in 2009, first time I went because I was stationed in the Army in a base in Ramallah. I went back again that year in 2009, and I had a job in Jerusalem, and I worked in a ministry with people that were terminally ill and that were going to die, and I worked with people like that. I worked with mentally retarded people and stuff like that too, stuff that I was used to be licensed for, but I'm not no more in the state of Illinois. But anyway, I did that, and 2 weeks before I was getting ready to leave to come back to the States in August of 2009, the Lord told me, he said, your life is in danger. Well, it's not like I didn't know that, but he said, you have to pray that all of your tickets are canceled at the airport. And so I went to, of course, the airport in Ben Gurion Airport in Tel Aviv, and I went to, I was leaving the country, coming back to America permanently, and I got to the airport, and they ran me through security, and they were looking for something. I know what they were looking for, and they were looking for these documents, but they didn't find them. And so by the end of the third search, and that they put me through and everything, they came back and they said, "Sir, your tickets have all been canceled. We're going to schedule you for new flights." How does that all work? I do believe in God, because I believe it all works because of God. I believe, I believe Yesu, the Son of God, is God, the everlasting Father. And so I believe that all this divine protection but he allows us to know things sometimes, just, for whatever, it's a test or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I have written a book called Miracles Do Happen, and I understand that. I don't understand it fully, but I recognize that it happens, and you're blessed to be where you are. Yeah,
so I the reason why I was calling you is because, I want to tell people that if you're dealing with trauma as a child, you know, you have to. I could have never went back. I could have never went to Palestine if I hadn't forgiven the people, because I knew that the people may have not. I knew that that generation may have passed away, but I knew that these people of this, what they call the deep state, I knew that that next generation, was there, and so God would have never allowed me to go there if I would have had
evil has always been on the face of the earth.
Yeah.
Mark,
He would have never allowed me to go there if I had bitterness or anger.
Mark, I have one question for you. Would you mind holding until we get back? And I'll tell you what the question is. The question is, do you think you were a subject of an experiment? That's the question. Think about that, and we'll be right back with Dr. Norm Shealy and Mark. And Mark in Illinois is with us. Mark, I had a question for you. Actually, it's a multi-part question. And you mentioned that you would, your dad would receive a call from, or calls from Washington. I assume you mean Washington, D.C. And you would talk to the person. Do you think that these calls, or they indicated that maybe you were part of an experiment? Is that possible?
Well, I want to answer that, but I believe it may be a little different than, because I thought about everything that you could possibly imagine. And this is a scripture that the Lord gave me concerning the Messiah in Hebrews chapter 5. And it says, "And though he was a good son, because of fear and suffering which he endured, he learned obedience." And, there was a conspiracy against the Messiah from the day he was born to destroy him. And and this is not a conspiracy because it's all facts. I mean, I know it's all reality. I've lived it. But I believe that Satan knows things about us that we don't even know about ourselves. And when we learn those things, we become even more of a threat to him, because then we learn our identity. And with identity comes responsibility, like you were talking about. You were talking about when you're a teacher and your students. And then you learn, then you have a destiny. And so all those three things combined are the very thing that I believe that the enemy wanted to keep me from ever finding out the truth. And that is, all truth is light. And light is knowledge and wisdom and understanding. And darkness is ignorance.
Well, you have come a long way, Mark. Blessings on you. And I wish you the very best as you continue to overcome this particularly horrendous life.
Yeah, I don't know if
Dr. Shealy,
that answer your question. Did that answer your question, Vincent?
Sort of. I'm a pretty simple guy, so it's it's hard for me to understand some.
I understand the allegorical and other meaning of this, but.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there was something else too that I seen with on True Traveler with Aaron Dakins, and when I went on there, I'd seen about after World War II, all of the German people that were murdered by these same people that were responsible for the destruction of my family and all this evil that has happened in my life. And I realized as I studied these videotapes about that she posted on her website, it all started to really come back. It started to hit me, and I began to see that this people have been at work for thousands of years, destroying nations and destroying people. And I thought, who were the people? Why would they allow this to happen? I thought the Nuremberg trials were to prosecute people, and here the very same thing that's happening after the war is over. All these people are being killed, and who authorized all these people to be killed? And those were just like really eye openers to really show me that what is the truth. And it's really hard for people to face the truth because then they have to get rid of all their false paradigms.
Mark, you mentioned The Truth Traveler with Erin Dakins. I know Erin Dakins. She's been to our farm. She and her husband spent several days here in Missouri with us. And I don't know if you know this or not, but Erin and I did a broadcast together, and it was called The Bunker Files on Truth Frequency Network. Did you know that?
I think I knew something about you and Erin Dakins because I've listened to your show for probably about 4 or 5 years.
Blessings,
Mark.
Mark.
In Illinois, thank you so much. And I've got your number. I'm going to call you off the air. Mark, thank you so much for calling in and sharing with us your story.
Right.
Dr. Shealy and I'll be right back right after these few short commercial announcements and top of the hour news. Everyone all set? Cocked, locked, blissed? Hour number 2 of USA Prepares. If you'd like to call us, 866-582-9933. Dr. Norman Shealy's with us. Dr. Shealy, if we want to call you and make an appointment to see you or talk to you on the phone, what number should we call?
417-351-5221.
Okay, class, that's in the Central Time Zone, right here in Missouri, Springfield, Missouri, 417-351-5221.
And Vince, by the way,
yes,
officially this week we're changing the name to Shealy Soren Wellness Institute.
Shealy Soren, okay, Wellness
Institute,
okay.
From International.
Okay, so class, the name of Dr. Shealy's clinic will be, this week, Shealy Soren, S-O-R-I-N, Wellness Institute. Shealy Soren Wellness Institute in Springfield, Missouri. And it may take a little bit of time for the search engines to find that difference, but you can, if you need to search, just search on Dr. Norman Shealy, S-H-E-A-L-Y, in Springfield, Missouri. Dr. Shealy, I just want to share with you something I think is kind of fascinating. Before the broadcast started, I wrote a couple things that I wanted to remember. And I'm going to read verbatim what this note says. And this is, can you give us a 30-second bio of who Mark in Illinois is? Now, why would I write that down? He hadn't called yet. I had a feeling that...
It's becoming intuitive.
Well, maybe. I had a feeling that he was going to call. And my question for Mark was, who is Mark? And I never asked the question because Mark answered the question before I asked it. Fascinating. And so I called Mark during the top of the hour break after he hung up from us on the radio. And I thanked him for his call. And he told me that he's an inventor and a patent holder. Now, you can tell he's a very bright guy just by the way he describes things. Very precise in many, many ways. And so he's going to be on the air with us. Further, he and I are just going to talk about, who is Mark and what is he, what are his passions? And I just wanted to share that with you, that my question was answered without asking the question. That's about Mark in Illinois. Deborah in Kentucky. Deborah in Kentucky, you're on with Dr. Norm Shealy. Welcome.
Good morning, Vincent and Dr. Shealy. I have 2 real basic quick questions for Dr. Shealy first, and then I have a friend with me that is the primary reason for my call.
Good.
Dr. Shealy, what was the name of the product that you recommended to have on hand for UTI?
Interesting. It was Doctor's Best Bladder Control.
But really? Okay, thank you.
Wait a minute.
Okay.
Last week I recommended that to someone, and all of a sudden, after years, 10 years that I know of, it has disappeared. But I have found a replacement. Unfortunately, the name is such that I can't remember because it's one of those unusual names. But if you'll send me an email, I'll send you the name of it.
I'll ask next week, or get somebody to send you an email because I don't have a computer right now.
I understand, but do get in touch, and I'll try to memorize the name. It's HAV something, but it's one of those odd names that doesn't stick in my mind.
Okay, and secondarily, I wanted to ask you about if you know of a whole foods, primarily natural vitamin C, that is not ascorbic acid, that doesn't cost like $100 for a pound or something, because the ascorbic acid, from the research that I've done, it's primarily is a derivative of GMO corn.
Well, that is true, but I have to say that I use up to 100 grams of it intravenously, and it's the greatest thing in the world for the immune system. I've never seen anyone allergic to it. We've done hundreds and hundreds of people where we give it IV up to 100 grams.
Well, I would be like needing bulk to get considerable amount in me. We're all vitamin C deficient without realizing pretty much. And I've been vacillating and a little bit confused because the ascorbic acid is beneficial, but is it harmful in any way?
Almost never.
Really?
I mean, up to 4 grams. Now, most people, somewhere between 5 and 7 to 8 grams a day, will get diarrhea. But that's the irritation of the intestines. But
I understand that because I'm the one that's done the potassium bicarbonate and the sulfur with it, and I want to push as much as I can handle.
Well, I don't recommend going above 5 grams, but orally. But it is remarkably safe, and even though it is possible, I suppose, to have an allergic reaction because of the corn derivative, I have worked with it for 42 years intravenously, totally safely.
That's astounding. Even if it's GMO-based corn?
Well, I don't know where it all comes from. We don't usually find out. So it's wherever I can get the particular intravenous ascorbic acid.
Yeah, well, I would be taking it orally.
I understand. And my Dr. Shealy's youth formula has 2,000 milligrams, and that's what I recommend for people.
Okay. Well, I've had lupus for decades and need to keep taking care of building connective tissue and such. So I'm just not trying to overdo things. I think it's really good for me.
Right. At the top of my list for lupus would be a whole bunch of things, but include Fire Bliss.
Absolutely, and I'll talk directly with you some precious day. I have a dear friend with me that was the primary reason for my call-in today, and this is Glenda from Iowa. Are you here, Glenda?
Yes.
You got to talk up a little bit.
Yes. Good morning, Dr. Shealy.
Good morning. What's up?
Well, I have been diabetic 54 years, and I have battled lymphoma twice. Right now, I have some situations which point that I may have malignancy active again. There was a Nagalase test run, and it was a 2.6. So that would show that I have lymphatic activity in my body again. But what is going on, 3 years ago I had a blood clot, and I've been on warfarin ever since. And I'm on 3 to 4 milligrams a day. It varies. 5 days I'm on 3, 2 days I'm on 4. And I have broken out with rashes on my ankles and on my hand and a spot on my back. And I wonder if this would be acidity working out from the warfarin, or if my skin is breaking down due to the warfarin, or is it, I'm not sure if it's just acid related or what it is, but I do not know what to do with this. It started last summer, and it gets better, and then it comes back again. And I did have, like, ulcers on it, which was kind of frightening, but they have left now. But now the itching is starting up again, and it's very red and rashy looking.
Well, again, with this kind of history, at the top of my list would be large doses of intravenous vitamin C depending on your weight, that would be for 50 to 100 grams. And it would take a minimum of 5 of those to turn your immune system around.
Okay, but now how would I be able to do this? To get
Well, the only people who would do that are holistic physicians. You won't find conventional physicians doing it, but if they hang out a shingle as a holistic physician, they'll know what I'm talking about.
Okay. I do have one doctor down in Des Moines that it'd be quite a ways, but I don't know of anyone else in Iowa that would be able to do something like this. My sister's, unless I would have her hook it up for me, I don't know. If she
well, you can't, pick it up would be okay, but you have to have someone who'll give it. And again, you've got to have a physician prescribe it.
Okay.
Let's go back to warfarin, Glenda, instead of just primarily focus on the vitamin C.
Okay,
So that you
and also, how do you have any remedies that would help me to get off of warfarin?
The only thing I know that is an adequate substitute is nattokinase, Nattokinase. Now, again, that would require physician supervision. I can't advise you to do that when I'm not controlling, and weaning you from the warfarin at the same time.
What did you call it again? C-A what?
Natto, Nattokinase.
Okay, nattokinase. Okay.
Nattokinase, yes.
Okay, and but that's something I should get advice from a doctor, you said also.
You'll have to get it from a physician, yes.
Is that a supplement?
You can buy it over the counter, but I can't advise you how to do it without, total physician involvement.
Okay, that is very good to know. Well, thank you so very much for your time.
You are welcome. Have a good one.
Deborah, can you stay on the line for a minute? Alex, can you combine Deborah's call with Ted's call? Can you combine them for me, please? Let's see if we can do this. Okay. We're going to combine two calls. Okay. Here we go. So from what I can see on the call screen, Deborah in Kentucky, you're on with Dr. Norman Shealy in Missouri, me in Missouri, and Ted calling in from Washington. Ted, you've got something that you wanted to mention to Deborah?
Yes, hello. Hi, Deborah. I wanted to offer an extension of donating you a laptop that I have.
I can't hear anything he's saying personally.
Okay, we've got an echo. So, Ted, you want to donate a laptop computer to Deborah. Is that correct?
Yes, I do.
Absolutely. Okay, I'll tell you what. Ted, please leave your number with Alex, our engineer. Deborah, please leave your phone number with Alex, our engineer. That's an interesting couple of calls. We had Deborah calling in, and we had Ted calling in. And Ted is donating a computer to Deborah, and I'm sending Ted an email thanking him and putting him in touch with Deborah so she will now have a computer. And thank you so much for Ted. Thank you for doing that. That was very, very kind of you. That kind of just shows who USA Prepares is, right, class? Alan in Indiana, you're on with Dr. Norman Shealy. Welcome.
Good morning. Hello?
Alan, are you there? Hey, Alan.
Hello.
Hey, Alan, you're on with Dr. Norman Shealy.
Can you hear me?
Yep,
now we can.
Okay. Last week you were talking about how things can happen to the average people. There was a lawyer in Texas, Adask, Adask, WordPress.com.
Alfred Adask?
Yeah, Alfred Adask. And he was being sued by the, he got into a case, and then the Texas state's attorney told him that he was going to be fined $25,000 a day, plus his clients. And on his website, he has you go on the right side, and it says man or other animals, and there's a 40-minute video on his case. And then also on his website, if you go to best, on the top of the page, press on best, and you scroll down, 15, 16, and 17 is all the paperwork from his case. And they were being prosecuted for manufacturing a Class 1 drug. And he had, I guess he does a lot of reading, and between the Bill of Rights and the Bible, he put in briefs stating that, I think the second sentence in the Bill of Rights, it says, all men are created equal, and our Creator gives us rights. And in the Bible, I think, I forgot the part of the Bible, but it also says man was created in the image of God and has domain over animals. So when he put in the briefs that he's a man, he's not an animal, which the Drug Administration, starting in 1906, quotes us as being man or other animals. Also in the state laws, it says man or other animals. They consider us animals. So he put in briefs that saying he was a man. And after 5 months of negotiations, they dropped the case on him. They didn't want to go to a jury and tell the jury that they're animals.
Mm-hmm.
Well, every once in a while, even the law becomes somewhat common sense.
Yeah. And today,
Alan,
if you read those laws today and you go down to the definitions, it still says man or other animals.
Right.
Yep.
Alan, I don't know if you're aware of this, but Alfred Adask is a USA Prepares instructor as well.
Okay.
A brilliant guy.
Yeah.
I'm going to give him a call and get him back on with us.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but his website, if you wanted that information, is Adask, ADASK, WordPress.com.
It's Adask, ADASK .wordpress.com.
Yeah.
Yes. And if you just want to look it up, if you can't remember that class, if you're traveling, just look up Adask, ADASK.
Yes. All right.
And Alan, anything else you'd like to share with us?
Not at this time. Thank you.
Great. Hey, thank you for calling in. It's Alan in Indiana. All right, we'll be right back. Class, during the break, I was feverishly working to fix a damaged link to Alfred Adask. So if you go to usaprepares.com and click on instructors, you will find Alfred Adask. But the link is broken, and I'm not sure why. I'm reposting it to fix it. So if you want to find him that way, I would think by the end of the broadcast it should be fixed. So that would be USA Prepares. Click on the Instructors tab, and then look at the instructors, list of instructors, and he's posted under Political and Government Issues, Alfred Adask. David in Illinois, welcome. You're on with Dr. Norman Shealy.
How you gentlemen doing today?
Great.
Yeah. My wife was checking into magnesium and the best way to apply it, and we've been trying to get information about that.
Well, I've been working on this for 30 years, and the best way is through the skin. It is better absorbed and much less irritating to the gut, and it raises your DHEA, the anti-stress hormone, and there's no other way that magnesium can do that. So magnesium lotion is by far the best way to apply it.
when she was in the hospital this last time, she was almost in critical. And now they did put her on, I believe, IV and magnesium. And she said it was the most painful thing she ever had done.
Well, if it was properly done, it's not painful at all. I've done it for, well over 30 years. I've taken as much as 4 grams IV in a very slow. You don't push it in. It has to go in very slowly. But I have turned around auricular fibrillation, that kind of thing, atrial fibrillation, that's by giving adequate magnesium IV.
Yes, the only records we were able to get the military to give up for hers, all they did was release a diagram of the patch surgery they did on her. They wouldn't give anything else up. So, but they believe her irregular heartbeat is due to the procedures they did when she was a child on the base. One of those.
Right.
So she would just like to get off of that. She's already lost quite a bit of her body as it is. So she's just trying to find a way to reduce, the medicine. And she's done really well. We both have.
Yeah. I've had very few people have any problem with putting it on the skin.
What is the best place to apply it?
Well, I put it on my buttocks and posterior thighs.
Mm-hmm.
But it could go anywhere except on the face. The only reason you don't put it on the face is it would sting if it got in the eyes. But any other, unhairy, so to speak, skin is fine.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And is there an amount, like, she's not a very big
2
person
teaspoons
at all.
twice a day is the minimum requirement.
Okay.
And depending upon weight, obviously, you might take more. But let's say for up to 140 or 50 pounds, 2 teaspoons twice a day is adequate.
Now,
David, I believe Dr. Shealy is talking about 2 teaspoons of his magnesium lotion.
That is
correct. That's what I was going to ask you.
Yes.
Well, I can't speak for anybody else's because mine is a patented process. When I learned that giving it through the skin, the way we do it, raises DHEA. I consider DHEA the single most critical hormone for health.
Well, the doctors are very upset with her, so I have to go with her because they're already, she's not even near any pacemaker or anything like that. But they said, down the road we will. She said, well, you're not putting a Wi-Fi, nothing in me or Bluetooth. And she said,
with her.
They just get mad. They just get furious. And I'm like, hey, they look to me and I'm like, hey, I'm just to make sure her wishes are met.
Yeah,
and,
she's not abused.
She doesn't want it. I had to have her the last time she was in critical. I had to transfer her from one hospital to the other one because they were sitting there trying. Whenever we go, they're like, we got them here. Let's see what else we can do. We actually have to be transferred to other hospitals. And that's just not right. But yeah. Now, can I ask you another quick question about vitamin D?
Sure.
They say to take so much vitamin D, and I hear some of these other doctors on the radios recommending taking these 1,000 IUs, I believe it is, 3 of them 2 to 3 times a day.
Well, actually, the nice thing about vitamin D is it's stored in the fat. So my recommendation is 50,000 units once a week for people over 140 pounds, and 3 times a month for those adults under 140 pounds. And that's what I've been doing for many years.
Yeah, she's only around 100, 95, 100. So
yeah, then the first 10th and 20th of the month, 50,000 units. She would get about a 2.5-year supply out of one bottle. The cheapest, easiest way to take it.
Now, the only question I have about the vitamin D is it brought up a question about vitamin K because doctors that we researched about said if you don't have a proper vitamin K, the vitamin D will not work properly. Nobody wants to discuss vitamin K.
Well, I do very frequently. You need a minimum, if you're healthy, of 100 micrograms of K2 every day. But if you have a major problem, I will give anywhere from 15 to 45 milligrams a day of K2.
And is that in a pill form or a oil?
Yeah,
or?
It's a little tiny capsule.
Okay. Now, so I take it you have your own, store for these products?
Right. Shealy Wellness. ShealyWellness.
Okay. I appreciate this. I have to call back some other time to talk to you guys. You said about people that try to do the right thing that lose jobs and things like that. So,
hey, keep up the faith, baby.
David?
I agree. I look forward to that Mark guy because he can forgive. And after what I found out they actually did to me, that's the only thing keeping me going and talking on radio shows is because I'm furious. So,
David,
give it to him.
Would you, before you hang up, please leave your phone number with Alex, and I'd like to talk to you about that man who tried to kidnap you and one of your boyfriends when, and I don't mean gay or homosexual when I use that term, when you were very, very young, a very famous murderer.
Right. And there's, like I said, I found out why they hid me with the FBI, the police, and everybody else, and they used me as a medical guinea pig because the man lost custody of me. And as long as there's no victim, there's no crime. I'm wondering why people come to my house. They take me to the courthouse and won't tell me what's going on. He's a federal officer that they're covering for and everybody else. I just found this stuff out not long ago.
David, okay. What was the man's name? What was the murderer's name who attempted to kidnap you?
Gacy?
Yeah.
And the thing is, John Wayne Gacy, but the guy that was there, nobody questioned us about the bloody clothes, the kid, the teeth we found, the car that was ditched in the lake, the water, nothing. And my dad was a cop. And I didn't know why, but he did not. That guy still went on to kill. And instead, he boarded up my windows, nailed stuff up so nobody would see me or they couldn't find me because he said, I cannot have you on a report. And I've seen so much of this stuff, and I used to talk about this stuff until they covered up a shooting. And I was right there. I'm sitting right next to him. And then they say, this can happen to you if you don't learn to shut your mouth.
When you say they, you're talking about the cops covering up a shooting?
It was one of his FBI buddies came over and, they shot somebody twice. And was worried they were going to live.
David, you have the internet, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I used to work on computers just like you, and there's a reason I quit. I quit and gave everything away. I still got stuff here because he was calling me. I found out he was asking me how to manipulate his government computer. And I'm like, wait a minute, I can't have them raid my house.
I gave all of my equipment away as well.
I still David, got processors and unique heat sinks and stuff. So
me too. David, can you email me instructor at USA Prepares with your phone number, and we'll arrange time for you to come on.
Yeah, you'll understand why I haven't called in. I've been listening, but I haven't called your show because of all the problems my phone calls have caused. So.
Okay. Can you and I talk off the air about arranging time for you to come on the air? Okay.
Yeah.
And
yes, sir.
in class, what we're talking about, if it seems like it's code, it's not. David in Illinois has called in before about John Wayne Gacy, a convicted murderer who tried to abduct him and David's boyfriend when they were children. And I don't mean boyfriend in the term
right. He was a friend living with me at the time, and we were looking for food, and we came across all this stuff, and he caught us. He actually tried to sneak up on us and grab us, and, we happened to have a rifle with us. It was a pellet gun, but he didn't know at the time, the guy, when we found a lot of the stuff we found. But
all right, David, let's
But I'll talk to you about it later.
Yeah, we'll do a complete broadcast on this.
Okay.
David, please send me an email. Okay?
All right.
Instructor at USA Prepares. Thank you, David.
Wow,
thank you.
Two cases of evil personified today.
Absolutely. And just to recap, when David was a young boy, he went down toward a body of water, and he was approached by this man. And this man tried to encourage David and his boyfriend to come with him. And that man turned out to be John Wayne Gacy, a convicted murderer, serial convicted murderer. And David has told the stories on various broadcasts, not all together, but various broadcasts, spanning a couple of years, about his father, who was a cop, and the things that David saw that he was never allowed to talk about. I'm talking about corruption and evil at the highest levels. And so David and I will be talking about that, and let's see if we can get him on the air. We'll be right back. Dr. Norman Shealy is with us, and as soon as Alex, our engineer, is finished talking with Ted, he just finished, I'll put Ted in Washington on the air. Ted, welcome. You're on with Dr. Norman Shealy.
Good morning, Vincent. Thank you so much. Good morning, Dr. Shealy.
Hi.
So when I first heard that Deborah doesn't have a computer, my heart reached out to her because ever since the Doc Ram show about the Zorin Linux operating system a few months ago, I was able to obtain that operating system, and I love it a lot. And now I have 2 surplus laptops that I would like to donate one of them to her. If she'd be willing to receive it, more than happy to do that.
Well, I think she would. And were you able to get her phone number to contact her? I asked our engineer, Alex, to do that.
I did. We've been in touch a moment ago. Thank you for that.
Great. Well, thank you, Ted. You know, Ted, you actually demonstrate what USA Prepares is about, who we are.
Thank
and
you, sir.
I can't thank you enough. And you have some questions for Dr. Shealy.
At this time, I do not. I just didn't want to interrupt the show by going in a different topic about operating systems, but thank you for taking my call, and it'd be my pleasure to help Deborah.
Wonderful.
Okay, wonderful. Don't go away.
I'll hold tight.
Pretty impressive, isn't it? Pretty impressive, isn't it, Dr. Shealy?
Oh, absolutely. That is what life is about, helping other people.
Mm-hmm. Ted, I understand that you've got some knowledge about computers, and I wanted to share this with you and Dr. Shealy. I'm so glad that you called in for this discussion. So there's an article in theatlantic.com. It says your TV is now a computer. Your TV is now a computer. So this author turned on his computer, a Samsung smart television, to watch the Warriors game. And after about 20 seconds, the CBS News app switched itself on for a few seconds in a small rectangle in the upper left-hand corner. Then his TV crashed. And then it went dark. And so then he rebooted it by unplugging his television and then replugging it in. And what he found out was his television has applications in it, and he cannot delete them. So it's like a phone. It watches you. It's got a microphone. It's got a video camera. It watches you, listens to you. It has applications. And you really didn't sign up for these when you buy these. And then the TV will update itself, get updated applications, updated software. And so your TV's watching you while you're watching it. So now 70% of the TVs that are sold now are these smart TVs. Ted, were you aware of this?
Yes, I was. It's a nightmare seeing this type of technology, walking through big box stores, having appliances tell us about our food. It's very uncomfortable.
Now I know why I don't watch television at all.
and I don't.
Best method.
And I don't either, Dr. Shealy. So what's happening is these televisions use an operating system. It's a form of Linux, and it combines the TV signal with these applications which spy on you. And then your habits are then sold to other parties. So the TV, which used to be a manufacturer would make a TV, you would watch it. It would be a receiver Now it's a receiver and a transmitter and a computer, and it runs applications which spy on you. And that information about you is sold to third parties without your knowledge of. Absolutely. So, and I don't know what the answer is to stop it, because you can't delete the applications.
I have an experiment.
Okay.
It's kind of a courageous experiment, not for those faint of heart, but for those tinkerers out there, and for those people that are fed up. Just cut the wire to the microphone and to the camera of these appliances and see what happens. Will it go into a spiral of self-diagnosis and saying certain elements do no longer work, or will we still have operation of viewable access, just no microphone and camera? Cut the wire, people.
And what Ted's talking about is opening up your TV and finding where the camera is, finding where the microphone is. If it has wires, it may be embedded in the main board. I haven't opened one up. I don't have a smart TV.
Razor blade on the main board. Cut the solder joint.
Avoid. You might have to cut a trace. Yeah. Ted, thank you so much. Dr. Shealy, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Shealy.